Hey guys, Andrew here with DrewFit. I want to thank you for tuning in. Today's video topic, how to utilize carb backloading for optimizing muscle growth and fat loss. Now, before I jump into that topic, as always, I want to ask if you guys can please subscribe to my channel, like or share this video with somebody that can use this information, and also give me a follow on Instagram at DrewFit. Now, before I jump into the how to do carb backloading, I want to give you guys a very brief overview as to why carb backloading works the way it does, so you have a little bit of an understanding. So the main emphasis here is used on two key hormones, insulin and cortisol. And the ultimate goal is to optimize insulin sensitivity so you can ensure that you're getting the most out of the carbohydrates that you eat later in the day. And you can only do this when you use the manipulation of these two hormones. Now, for a brief understanding, in a healthy human, what you'll notice is that cortisol will start off high in the morning and taper off later in the evening. Like I said, this is for healthy individuals that are getting good night's sleep and their hormones are relatively in check. And the understanding is that when you spike insulin, when your cortisol is high in the morning, that you're actually going to be utilizing those carbohydrates and storing them in fat cells as compared to later in the day when your cortisol tapers off and you spike insulin when cortisol is low, they're going to be utilizing those carbohydrates for muscle growth and they're going to be stored in muscle cells instead of fat cells. And that's the very brief gist of it. If you want more information, I highly encourage you to check out Dr. John Kiefer. He has a whole book on the idea of carb backloading and carb night solution that I highly encourage you guys to look out for. Now, how do you do carb backloading? So I recommend 1 to 4 carb nights per week, and this is going to be relative to what your goals are going to look like. If you have a vacation coming up or you're doing a competition show and you're wanting to get down to a very low body fat percentage, have veins popping, get a really shredded six-pack, you're going to want to probably optimize 1 upwards to 2 carb nights a week, with the days that you're not doing carb nights, keeping your carbs relatively low, around 100 to 150 grams per day. Now, if you're wanting to do this long-term and keep it sustainable and keeping your hormones healthy, I recommend anywhere between 2 and 4 carb nights per week. The reason being is carbohydrates do play a very important role on having healthy hormones and a healthy thyroid. So optimizing your carbohydrate intake is going to be crucial for long-term success and having good health. I also want to put an emphasis on days that you are doing carb backloading, that you are hitting your caloric requirements for what your specific goals are, because it's very easy to either undereat or overeat, and this could throw you in some kind of loop where you're not hitting your goals. So make sure you're adhering to your diet, you're hitting your goals. Next, I want to point out that you should be doing carb backloading on days that you are working out in the gym, lifting weights. Reason being is that this also increases your chance for improving insulin sensitivity and optimizing the carbohydrates that you're going to be eating. You don't want to be doing carb backloading on days that you're resting or taking days off. Now, what a normal day of eating looks like when doing carb backloading is very simple. Essentially, what you want to do is keep your carbohydrates at or below 50 grams until about 5 p.m. And you also want to make sure that you're getting adequate protein and fat for breakfast and lunch and any snack in between that time. And then after about 5 p.m. is when you can start consuming a large amount of carbohydrates. And the reason being is because now your cortisol has dropped off, you've already worked out for the day, and it's tapering off, and now it's time to spike insulin so you can ensure that you're optimizing the carbohydrates that you're going to be consuming. Now, the amount of carbohydrates that you're going to be consuming is going to be very individual specific, and it's going to be something that, like I said, adheres to how many calories you should be eating for the day. So for me, on carb nights, I recommend for myself anywhere between 200 to 300 carbs, depending on how much food I've eaten in the earlier parts of the day, to make sure I'm hitting my caloric intake. Now, when it comes to what carbohydrates you should be consuming on carb night, this is where you get to have fun with it. And if you've been following me for any amount of time on social medias, you'll see that I like to indulge in things like pizza, cheeseburgers, fries, donuts, pastries, the list goes on and on. I'm a really big fan of that kind of stuff, but I do want to put an emphasis out there that you want to avoid polyunsaturated fatty acids as much as possible when you're consuming these carbohydrates. Reason being is that PUFAs actually inhibit glucose oxidation, and when you're partaking in carb night, you want to be oxidizing that glucose as much as possible and avoiding the polyunsaturated fatty acids as much as possible. So I want to put that out there. I do indulge in foods that are cooked in PUFAs. It's not going to, cause long-term damage as long as you're optimizing it on days you're not indulging in carb nights. And things you can do is supplement vitamin E and aspirin. And what this does is help optimize glucose oxidation. But me personally, I think the best thing that comes from carb backloading is the sanity that you get out of not having to avoid some of the junk foods that you do enjoy every once in a while. So you want to keep it at about an 80-20 rule. 80% of the time you're eating good, nutritious foods, avoiding a lot of the bad stuff. And 20% of the times you can go out, indulge, have some good food, and then you get right back to it the next day to being a little more strict on your diet. So I hope this helps you guys. If you had any questions about carb backloading or wonder why I practice carb backloading, I hope this answered those questions for you guys. But if you have any more questions, drop them below and I'll get back to you. And don't forget to subscribe to the channel. Thanks for watching, guys.